consider the possibility that your presence here in riot gear is the problem?
Let's go, let's go.
Has that crossed your mind? Is this an appropriate response?
About 2,000 people have been ordered to leave the Lake Hughes, Green Valley, and Lake Elizabeth areas.
You can see across the water from where we're standing here at Elizabeth Lake, there are structures burning at this hour. We can't tell if that's a home or some other kind of building.
This is a very small assembly of peaceful citizens expressing themselves in an expressive fashion, and I believe it will remain that. So there is absolutely no reason for you to be here, number one.
Hi there, and welcome to The Fire Report. My name is your host, Dwayne Risco, coming from the beautiful Bat Studios of downtown Brunswick, Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight on The Fire Report, I've got some great videos that you need to sit back, first and foremost, and watch for yourself and let this information sink in. You know, here on The Fire Report, we're bringing stuff that a lot of the national media is going to discredit, going to flat out lie, and call us hate speech witch hunts. But you decide, ladies and gentlemen. You can't stop the truth, but you can sure try to throw mud on it, sling it, and cover it up. Tonight's the first video you're going to see is politics by a Dr. Ben Carson, to where he's on a platform at a function with President Obama, and this is off of Fox News. And you'll be able to see first and foremost what a highly intelligent man Dr. Ben Carson is. You know, I've watched this man for a few times and listened to his speeches. There's a man who should be the President of the United States. He gets it. He understands it. He knows what it's all about. But could it be those in power now have been brought in for, let's say, one agenda? We've heard about change. We've heard about forward. But boy, we never thought that it would happen this way. All those people that voted for President Obama in his direction, in his change, in his forward, how do you like it now? The Supreme Court and its rulings. Proposition 8. Now we got the Obama health care. And in this health care, 2,000 and some pages, we are in for a real treat. We are watching the folding up of America. We are watching the wealth of America being stolen and crumbled. The middle class is dwindling. The poor is on the uprights. The jobs are going elsewhere. And ladies and gentlemen, through this Obama health care plan, we see more and more and more workforces cutting back because they cannot afford the Obamacare plan. They cannot afford the money to pay for this. It's socialized medicine. But when Ernie Sanders from What's Right, What's Left came out from downtown Cleveland and exposed all these things, many of you laughed and scoffed and mocked. When Sean Hannity came out and exposed how dangerous this was, many of you laughed and scoffed at him. All we did was tell you the truth. Was our medical field broke? Absolutely. Did it need help? Absolutely. You know, there's things called liars, swindlers, con artists. Greed is the number one. The love of all money is the root of all evil, not money itself. But when you have people double dipping in the hospitals, double dipping in the doctor's office, you have people walking into hospital rooms and you send 3 or 4 of the same party in to read a chart and you keep billing, it all adds up. When you perform operations that have no need, but you perform them anyway to make money, how corrupt and wrong is that? When you overload people with drugs in the nursing home and in the hospital that don't really need it, but you get your kickback, how corrupt and greed is that? When you turn around and claim that you had an accident and your neck hurts and your back hurts and it really didn't, and you win a settlement, how corrupt and greed is that? Look at what's happened in America. Dr. Ben Carson is a man of integrity, a man of honesty. There is a man that I highly respect. I would love to have dinner with Dr. Ben Carson just to talk to him and listen and absorb some of his information that he has. After all, knowledge is the key, is it not? You're going to see Dr. Ben Carson give a speech, and right next to him is President Obama. What Dr. Carson had to say is phenomenal. But do you think the one sitting next to him really paid attention? Or was he irritated? He hates anyone to tell him anything. It's either President Obama's way or the highway. There is no compromise. If you've been watching Congress, if you've been listening to the House of Representative speakers, and if you've been watching what's been going on, other than watching all your Netflix Hollywood programs, perhaps you can see that America has changed. America is going forward. It's not America of freedom anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, watch this video by Fox Report. Also, Benghazi. How come MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, and the rest, except for Fox News, I got to congratulate Fox News on cable, Greta, Hannity, O'Reilly, Shepard, congratulations to all of you at Fox News that really brought to light of Benghazi. The rest of the media was in the Democrats' back pocket. They called everything that Fox News and the Republican Congress that went after Benghazi, they made it out to be hatred. They made it out to be a witch hunt. They called this is nothing more than a scandal attack against the Democratic Party. Well, there's nothing they could have done in Benghazi. After all, you will see for yourself Hillary Clinton talking about the 4 Americans that are dead and 1 ambassador. What difference does it make? Really? What difference does it make? I guess if you just kill a bunch of Christians, it's okie dokie, you know. Go after the Christians. Round them fundamentalists up. Speaking of that, you're also going to see a video about how our government is saying that those of us who are Christians and hold the fundamental beliefs, we have something wrong inside of our head that they can fix by implementing something inside of our brains that believe in Jesus Christ, that they can fix us. You're going to see it for yourself. But Benghazi, ladies and gentlemen, Bret Baier on Fox News did a fabulous, total breakdown of what really took place in Benghazi, that the national media turned its back the other way. It's sort of like a family member getting in trouble. And you love that family member so much. You're dedicated to protecting that family member at all costs, even if you know they're wrong. It's hard to swallow the truth. So what do you normally try to do? You try to look the other way as if it never happened and hope it doesn't happen again. But it's too late. You know, when Benghazi first came out, and those brave men that gave their lives to rescue Americans that were having a standoff for over 8-something hours, waiting for help that never came, no one wanted to say who gave the orders to stand down. No one wanted to talk about what really happened. They blamed it on a video. We heard that the reason that the Benghazi riots took place in Libya was over a video about Mohammed. What a bunch of liars. Hey, when you don't tell the truth, it's not that you withheld information. Knock off this politically correct stuff already, okay? When you don't tell the truth to people, you're a liar. Hey, Fox News, why don't you start using that word a little bit more, okay? Start telling it what it is. When you cover things up, why are you covering things up? Why are you hiding things? You're a liar. We, the American people, demand an answer and want to know the truth. But now, those of in power, they control the airwaves. For the most part, they control what goes in the newspaper. It's just a matter of time before they want to shut me up and those on the internet who expose what really happened. We lost lives at Benghazi that should have never, ever been lost. Marines are trained to give their lives in harm's way. They lay their lives down for one another. They go into hellholes that want to rip their brains out. They lay their life down for what they believe is the American cause for freedom so we can do what we do right here in American soil. To this day, it irks me that we let these deaths at Benghazi go as if it's no big deal. Let's move forward. That's the problem. We are moving forward in a different America, in a new America, in a police state America. You're not allowed to tell the truth. They got inside the media. We are shutting things down. But you're going to see one of the best presentations on Benghazi. It's all about the truth. That's why my TV show, The Fire, is all about the truth. That's why The Fire Report is here. It's all about the truth, letting you decide. But you know what I've learned through the years? Even when you show people the truth, even when you prove people the truth, some of yous out there have so much pride that you won't admit that you're wrong, that you'll live the rest of your life believing a lie, which makes you stupid. Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a segment on migraine headaches. Now, I suffered with headaches for many, many, many years. Anything that you're going to see on these shows of mine that I do, I don't get no money for it. I don't even get paid for doing these shows, okay? I do it because I love America, I love God, and I really love you. I want to open the eyes and ears of some of you to try to help you. You're going to see some products out on the market that have really worked, that unless I've tried some of this stuff myself, I don't promote nothing. Nobody gives me nothing for free. Nobody sends me things and say, here, get on TV and you can have this for free. It don't work that way. But what I want to do on some of my shows is bring some stuff on health and nutrition. Now, there's a product out there called Calm, C-A-L-M, and I found this at the Mustard Seed over in Fairlawn. But many years ago, I learned about the product, but as an idiot, I didn't research it and try it. But once I got on this product, my headaches disappeared 80%. And a lot of yous out there suffer with stress headaches, migraines, clusters. You get frustrated, you can't sleep at night. Well, there's a reason why you get headaches. And on the videos that I'm going to present to you, you can learn some of these things. Also, I'm going to bring you some nutrition things. You hear about diabetes? I mean, diabetes has just exploded. And why is it today in America, everything is treated with a drug? You got a drug to go to sleep, you got a drug to get up, you got a drug to control your blood pressure, you got a drug to control your eyesight, you got a drug to control your digestive system, you got a drug for acid reflux, you got a drug to make you happy, you got a drug to calm you down, you got a drug to lift you up, you got a drug to help you poop, and one to make it softer. Why is it a drug for everything? Let me ask you a question. When you go to your doctor's office, does he ever sit down and have you fill out a chart about what you eat on a weekly basis? Oh, the first thing they get is, can I see your insurance card? How are you going to pay for this? And there's little signs. Please make sure payment is, you see where I'm going? Money first, okay? Show me the money, and then we'll talk about your symptoms. But they never ask you what you eat. How often do you exercise? What do you put in your body? You know, your body goes on fuel. We need nutrients to survive. A lot of our foods are processed. There's more sugars and chemicals and dyes and whatnot in our foods today that it messes us up after a period of time. Sit down and write on a piece of paper what you eat weekly. See how much of that adds up and affects your body. I'm going to show you some videos from some outstanding nutrition doctors that are going to help you along the way. You know, thank God I'm on no medicines at all. Over 50 plus years, I don't do drugs. Years ago, I was an idiot and tried some recreationals, but that was years ago, and everything has changed. I accepted Christ as my Savior, and I live a different life. But now I got to take care of my body. I need nutrients. I need minerals. I need to eat right. I need to exercise, which I do. But what about you? What we put in our bodies affects us, because after all, it's got to go into our digestive system, and it goes into our colon, and it filters in through our livers and whatnot, and our pancreas, so it all affects. But how come the doctors never ask you what you eat? Ever imagine that? You know, after all, food can be a healing agent. So I'm going to bring you some information. Along with all the politics, we're all about UFOs and microchips and the cashless society and a corrupt police state government and cameras and the military actions and things that our national media is hiding from you. Here in the Fire Report, we're going to try to bring you some outstanding videos to show for yourself that you can educate and perhaps learn. and make all the videos of these that you want and hand them out to everybody else. After all, Jesus says, my people perish because of the lack of knowledge. Truth is knowledge. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Folks, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Hey, tell the people about this new show, The Fire Report. Your host, Dwayne Risco. Again, thank you very much for tuning in. Pay attention to these videos. There's a lot of information that you're going to learn. Some of you are going to be shocked. Some of you are going to be grateful to see this. And naturally, there are those of you, no matter what, you're not going to believe it, even if it bit you in the you know what. Hey, my name is Dwayne Risco. You've been watching The Fire Report in beautiful downtown Brunswick, Ohio at Bat Studios.
And my next guest, who happens to be a world-famous brain surgeon, has become even more of a sensation after lecturing President Obama on some of his biggest obstacles, those being the debt, taxes, and health care. Now, just yesterday at the National Prayer Breakfast, standing only a few feet from the president, Dr. Benjamin Carson took to the podium and shared some, well, pretty amazing, smart advice. Listen to this.
Our deficit is a big problem. Think about it. And our national debt, $16.5 trillion. You think that's not a lot of money? Tell you what, count one number per second. One number per second. You know how long it would take you to count the 16 trillion? 507,000 years. You make $10 billion, you put in $1 billion. You make $10, you put in 1. Of course, you got to get rid of the loopholes. Some people say, well, that's not fair because it doesn't hurt the guy who made $10 billion as much as the guy who made 10. Where does it say you have to hurt the guy? He just put $1 billion in the pot. You know, we don't need to hurt him.
Amazing speech. Move over, President Obama. The doctor is in the house. Joining me now, the man himself, author of America the Beautiful, Johns Hopkins University Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery, Dr. Benjamin Carson. Dr. Carson, I got to tell you, that speech moved me deeply. Very well done. What's the reaction been so far?
The reaction has been overwhelming. We've been just deluged with emails, with calls, 99.5% positive.
Wow.
And that doesn't surprise me because the way that I laid things out was really logical. It wasn't right wing, it wasn't left wing. It was just logic and common sense. And this is what people are starving for coming out of Washington, D.C. I don't know where we left our brains.
I don't know where we did either. Before I get into the content, and it was very deep and very profound to me, simple yet profound. Your background is amazing, and you talked about it in your speech. Your mom married at 13, one of 24 children. You grew up in poverty, and you had you said you were not a good student. But tell us a little bit, tell us that story, because I think everybody needs to hear it.
Yeah, well, you know, obviously I had all the strikes against me. Single parent home, dire poverty, poor self-esteem, horrible temper. These things tend to preclude success, and they would have in my case also. But my mother, who had only a third-grade education, refused to be a victim. That was the key. She never felt sorry for herself, and that was a good thing. But the problem was she never felt sorry for us either. So, you know, there was never an excuse that we could give that was good enough. And if we gave an excuse, she would come out with a poem called Yourself to Blame. And after a while, we just stopped looking for excuses. But she worked as a domestic, 2 and 3 jobs at a time, because she didn't want to be on welfare. Even though she only had a third-grade education, she was very observant, and she noticed that no one she ever saw go on welfare came off of it. So she didn't want to be dependent, and she didn't want us to be dependent either. So she would work as long and as hard as was necessary. Wow. And one of the things she observed in the homes where she worked is that people didn't watch a lot of TV. And they spent a lot of time reading and strategizing. So one day she came home and just turned the TV off. Said, you guys watch too much TV. If you improve yourself, if you improve your brain, one day people will be watching you on television. And of course she was right about that. And, you know, I hated reading because that's what she imposed upon us. You've got to read 2 books apiece from the Detroit Public Libraries and submit to me written book reports, which she couldn't read, but we didn't know that. And I hated it because everybody else was outside playing and having a good time. But as I started reading, things began to happen. I was looking at words all the time. suddenly I could spell. I wasn't the first one to sit down at the spelling bee. Grammar and syntax. I learned how to express myself. You learn how to use your imagination rather than just observing somebody else's imagination. All of those make you into a terrific student. Within the space of a year and a half, I went from the bottom of the class to the top of the class and began to have a much different view.
What a great, and you
myself.
said you had to do those 2 book reports, and then you said your mother didn't know how to read them, but she convinced you she did.
Yeah, she put little
inspiring.
check marks and highlights and things on them, and we would think that she was reading them.
Wow.
She did, I will tell you, to her credit, she did eventually get her GED. She went on to college, and in 1994, she got an honorary doctorate, so she's Dr. Carson now, too.
You talked a lot about political correctness. You said it's dangerous. You said it muzzles people. You said there's a PC police force out there. You said it prevents people from saying what they mean, that we need to get over our sensitivity. Explain.
Yeah. Well, you know, here's a nation, one of the founding pillars was freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And yet, we have imposed upon people restrictions on what they can say, on what they can think. And the media, I think, is the largest proponent of this, crucifying people who say things really quite innocently. I mean, you think back a few weeks ago, the sportscaster who commented on the beauty of the quarterback's female, and people thought, that can't be right. And there was a big brouhaha, and then finally they realized, well, I guess there's nothing wrong with it. And the woman even was thankful for the compliment. But this is the level of silliness that we've risen to.
All right, Doctor, stay right there. We're going to come back. Your amazing story, this incredible speech that you gave. We're going to talk about how you're saying the fabric of American society now is being changed. You talk about education, taxes, the healthcare system. We'll have more with Dr. Carson right after the And welcome back to Hannity. We continue with the author of America the Beautiful, Johns Hopkins University, Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery, Dr. Benjamin Carson. Dr. Carson, a lot has been made of the fact that some of the things you discussed in this speech are policies that are very contrary to the president. You talked at length about America's educational system failing. We're being dumbed down is a phrase you used. The dangers of our debt and our deficit, class warfare, which you spoke out against, the tax issue, health savings accounts, that Rome can happen to America. What is your response to those that said, wow, you said that in front of the president?
Well, first of all, I should say that these are my own views. They don't represent the university that I'm employed by. But, you know, it really didn't matter who I was sitting in front of, because I always pray before I give a speech, and I ask God to give me the right things to say. And I think that that it's very rare these days for people to speak the truth. Everybody wants to go along to get along. And in the meantime, the fabric of our nation is being destroyed. We're going from a can-do nation to a what can you do for me nation. And I don't think that's what most people want, but you know, it's presented to them as the thing to do. And one of the real dangers, which I alluded to in the speech, is the fact that people don't know anything. They don't know about history. They don't know about technology. They know so little that the news media is able to tell them whatever they want them to think. And they say it enough times, and people say, oh, yeah, well, that's what they said on the news. And they don't think for themselves. The founders of our nation said, our nation will fundamentally change when people become so ignorant that they can be easily led.
Would you ever run for president, sir?
If the Lord grabbed me by the collar and made me do it, I would. It's not my intention.
I wouldn't wish that on you, but I think I would vote for you in a heartbeat.
Well, thank you. I have so many emails from people saying that I could probably finance my campaign if each one gave me a nickel.
Okay. What about, you gave a warning, though, about America. I share your concern. Morally, I see a decay in the country. $16.5 trillion in debt scares me. We're stealing from our kids. You came up with a great idea. I've always believed in health savings accounts. I don't like class warfare. What can we do to change things? You said we could either go down the direction of Rome, or we can change things.
Yeah, well, I think the brave leaders not the ones who are just wrapped up in their egos. And, you know, I'm not pointing this at any particular person or at any particular party. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of people with a lot of hubris which just thinks my way or the highway. And the reason that I gave the example of the eagle with two wings, a left wing and a right wing, is that all good ideals don't reside in one party. But as the Bible says, in a multitude of counselors is safety. But in order to be able to use those counselors, we got to get rid of political correctness and let people say what they mean and really put their ideals out on the table and explain why those are good ideals. I would be willing to debate anyone on the president's team on health care and how it should be administered and how it can be done for less money.
I'll tell you what
I don't get a chance to do that.
Because we're running out of time, and I want you to come back and tell the story. You explained it so well on Francis Scott Key. I'm going to invite Austin Goolsbee on with you, and if you would come next week, maybe we can talk about those issues. Your book is amazing. The speech was amazing. I put it on my website, Hannity.com. I hope you'll come back and see us again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
A Fox News alert. Breaking news now on the deadly terror attack on the U.S. consulate in Libya. Fox News sources telling us CIA officers on the ground in Benghazi during the attack sent requests for help but were denied. National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin is live at the Pentagon with more on this. Jennifer.
Hi, John. Well, sources who were on the ground in Benghazi during the attack tell Fox News that, in fact, there were 3 separate requests to aid not only the attack that was occurring at the consulate and to try and help with that attack, but also requests for outside help, outside military to help once there were gunfires and firefights at the CIA annex. Those requests, we're told, came from higher headquarters. They were told to stand down. There were, as you know, Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods, the former Navy SEALs, were over at the CIA annex at about 9:40 p.m. when the first shots were heard at the consulate where the ambassador and his team were taking fire. I'm told that they radioed to their higher headquarters that they wanted permission to go and help the ambassador, to help the ambassador's teams. At that time, they were told by their higher-ups to, quote, stand down. They waited approximately an hour. They requested again to send Glenn Doherty, Tyrone Woods, and other members of that team to help out at the consulate. They were again, for a second time, told to stand down. They ignored those orders. They made their way over to the consulate against orders. They helped rescue those who had survived at the consulate. They could not find the ambassador. They made their way back to the CIA annex about 1 mile away at midnight. That is approximately, the firing had started at 9:40 p.m., so that is approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes later. They get back to the CIA annex. They begin taking fire almost immediately. 4 mortars are fired at the compound. During that time, there was no problem with communications, I'm told, from sources on the ground. They were in constant radio contact with higher headquarters. They were calling for military support, air support. I've also learned from separate sources that there was at least one special operations unit, most likely Delta Force, that was waiting on standby at Sigonella Air Base, about 480 miles from Benghazi. They could have been at Benghazi in approximately 2 hours. They were part of the Commanders in Extremis Force, a SIF, they're called in the special operations community. They did not take off from Sigonella. Typically, on the ground, when special operations forces are involved in a firefight like this, they can call in air support from what are known as Spectre gunships. These are commonly used by the special operations communities, and sources in Benghazi who were involved in the attack say that no gunships were sent, no help was sent, even though the fighting at the CIA annex went on for more than 4 hours. We're also told that those at the CIA annex took into custody 3 Libyan attackers and were forced to hand them over to the Libyan February 17th forces that came to help at the annex at approximately 4 in the morning. They handed those 3 Libyans over. It's not clear from U.S. officials what happened to those Libyans and whether those Libyan attackers were in fact released in the end by the Libyans. But this is somewhat explosive information that 3 requests were denied from higher headquarters to not only help the ambassador and his team at the consulate, but also to send in outside military help that could have helped in this ongoing firefight that went on for 6 hours and 20 minutes. A final point, John, we have confirmed that there were 2 surveillance drones sent over Benghazi. One of them was sent into position. It was already in position over Libya at the time, over eastern Libya. It was positioned shortly after the firing began. It had to be replaced by a second drone later in the evening. So there was always one drone up above sending real-time video back to computers, computers that could be accessed at any of the agencies here in Washington. Anyone with a clearance at CIA, Pentagon, the White House Situation Room, or at the State Department could be tapping into that real-time video from the drones up above Benghazi on that night of September 11th and 12th. John?
Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon with some explosive information there. And so Doherty and Woods, who gave their lives in this attack, tried to rescue the others. In fact, did rescue the others against orders, you're saying. And this thing could have been a lot worse had they not done so. It's just incredible, and so many questions left to answer. Thank you, Jennifer.
And John, one final point. Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods were killed at 4 a.m. by a mortar shell. That is 6 hours and 20 minutes after the fighting at the consulate began. My source also tells me that one of the team was on the roof with a laser pointer with eyes on the mortar attack team, the Libyan mortar, the people who were shelling. That laser could have helped guide in any Spectre gunship or any other form of military help if it had been sent from Sigonella.
Or an armed drone even. Jennifer Griffin, again, we'll get back to you later. Thank you so much.
Returning to our story. It's September 11th, 2012. The attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi is underway. Back in Washington, what does the president know and when does he know it? What does he say and when does he say it? Questions that turn this terror attack into a political firestorm. Here's Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry.
September 11th, as the attack in Benghazi was playing out, emails cascade into the mailboxes of high-ranking officials in the intelligence community, in the Pentagon, and even the White House. 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time. The diplomatic mission is under attack. 49 minutes later, 4:54 p.m., firing at the U.S. diplomatic mission in Benghazi has stopped, and the compound has been cleared. At 5 p.m., the President, Vice President, and Defense Secretary Leon Panetta meet in the Oval Office.
That's about an hour after the attack began. At that time, they would have had a drone and a video feed from a drone being fed back to Washington.
Fox News national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin.
The problem is, don't forget that video from a drone, it's taken from an incredible distance. You don't have clarity as to who's who on the ground. You see figures moving. It's hard to tell friendly from foe.
6:07 p.m. Another email states that a terror group with ties to Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility on Facebook and Twitter. Administration officials later say a posting on social media is not in and of itself evidence. 11:57 p.m. Another chilling email. Subject line, Benghazi shelter location also under attack. The next morning, September 12th, President Obama addresses the nation from the Rose Garden, and what he says or doesn't say will become a hotly debated issue over the next days and weeks.
Since our founding, the United States has been a nation that respects all faiths. We reject all efforts to denigrate the religious beliefs of others. But there is absolutely no justification to this type of senseless violence.
With those words, the president seems to be saying Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans were killed in a spontaneous riot over that anti-Mohammed internet video and not a planned terror attack. A few paragraphs later, however, he does use the term terror, but in a more general sense after he recalls the September 11, 2001 Al-Qaeda attacks.
No acts of terror will ever shake the resolve of this great nation.
It is a hugely important distinction to some Obama critics, like best-selling author and commentator Mark Steyn.
There are always reasons to riot in the Muslim world.
Steyn believes the president was trying to dodge responsibility for the attack by chalking it up to the sort of sudden, irrational, out-of-proportion outrage we often hear about in the Muslim world.
I happened to be in the Oval Office once, and President Bush gave a very droll line. He said, oh, well, it's always something. If it's not the Crusades, it's the cartoons. In other words, you might riot over the Danish cartoons, or a Sudanese schoolteacher's teddy bear, or the swirl on a Burger King ice cream tub that happens to look like Allah written in Arabic. There's always a reason to riot.
You are aware that we've got an election going on.
That afternoon, the president leaves for a campaign trip to Las Vegas.
The President of the United States did not postpone a campaign event, even though we had been hit.
I said at the time, I thought that that was the biggest political strategic mistake of the Obama campaign.
Dana Perino was the White House press secretary for the George W. Bush administration. She's now a Fox News host.
Just imagine if he would have said, as commander-in-chief, it is important for me to stay back here at the White House. Just imagine, everybody would have thought, wow, how responsible.
Once the president had made his statement, I'm not sure what he should have done.
Democrat Eleanor Holmes Norton represents the District of Columbia.
Are we supposed to sit in mourning for several days and not go about our daily business?
September 13th, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton suggests the attack was just a spontaneous demonstration about the anti-Islam video.
There is no justification, none at all, for responding to this video with violence.
White House Press Secretary Jay Carney explicitly blames the video the next day.
These protests were in reaction to a video. We have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack.
And later that day, at the transfer of remains ceremony at Joint Base Andrews, Clinton talks again about the video.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
The father of one of those killed later tells Fox News Clinton told him personally they were going to arrest and prosecute the producer of the video. The next day, September 15th, California authorities haul Nikula Basili Nikula, the man who produced that video, in for questioning and march him in front of TV cameras. September 16th, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice, goes on 5 Sunday talk shows, repeating the same story each time.
This was not a pre-planned, premeditated attack. That what happened initially was that it was a spontaneous reaction to what had just transpired in Cairo as a consequence of the video.
They panicked. They panicked.
Former White House Chief of Staff John Sununu is now a senior advisor to Republican Mitt Romney's campaign.
This is purely a political reaction in a White House that had prepared itself to establish a narrative of a president getting rid of the threat of terrorism, using the death of bin Laden to focus on that, and waking up one morning and finding out that terrorism on 9/11 of this year was back full-fledged and even killing a U.S. ambassador.
Former Obama State Department spokesman P.J. Crowley.
I don't see a political agenda here. I see the fog of war. The fact that we still do not know, it's not about politics. It's about the difficult task of reconstructing what happened and having full access to the site and to all the people that played a role in this.
September 18th.
Did the administration have any sort of heads up that violence was increasing specifically in Libya before the attack?
I'm not aware of any, Ed. This is a matter that's under investigation in terms of what precipitated the attack.
That night on The Late Show with David Letterman, President Obama gives perhaps his most elaborate explanation of what he says happened in Benghazi. Was it a spontaneous riot or a planned attack? A combination of the two, he suggests.
You had a video that was released by somebody who lives here, sort of a shadowy character. This caused great offense in much of the Muslim world, but what also happened was extremists and terrorists used this as an excuse to attack a variety of our embassies, including the consulate in Libya.
But on September 25th at the United Nations, the president mentions the video 6 times.
There's no video that justifies an attack on an embassy.
September 27th, the producer of that video, Nikula Basili Nikula, is ordered detained without bail by a federal judge for allegedly violating the terms of his probation. He remains in custody to this day.
The attack on our consulate can't be blamed on a reprehensible video insulting Islam.
By October, the Republican presidential ticket is hitting President Obama hard, saying he's ducking responsibility for the attack.
What we are watching on our TV screens is the unraveling of the Obama foreign policy.
October 16th, at the second presidential debate, Romney and Obama face off. They highlight the now familiar charges and countercharges over whether President Obama took the Benghazi attack and, by implication, the Islamic terror threat in general, seriously enough.
So as soon as we found out that the Benghazi consulate was being overrun, I was on the phone with my national security team.
The president, the day after that happened, flies to Las Vegas for political fundraiser.
The day after the attack, Governor, I stood in the Rose Garden and I told the American people that this was an act of terror, and the suggestion that anybody in my team would play politics or mislead when we've lost 4 of our own, Governor, is offensive.
It took the president 14 days before he called the attack in Benghazi an act of terror.
Get the transcript.
6 days later.
The first question, and it concerns Libya.
October 22nd, the final presidential debate.
Governor Romney, you said this was an example of an American policy in the Middle East that is unraveling.
But if anyone was hoping to see another Donnybrook over Benghazi, they would be disappointed.
We see in Libya an attack apparently by, well, I think we know now, by terrorists of some
Whatever their reasons, both candidates seem ready to move on.
Well, my first job as Commander-in-Chief, Bob, is to keep the American people safe. And that's what we've done over the last 4 years.
The story, however, is not going away.
Could the terrorist attack in Benghazi have been prevented? Could it have been stopped? Special Report investigates after the break. On September 12, 2012, 4 Americans died in Benghazi. This week brought a new set of questions. Among them, should the military have responded more quickly and forcefully? Or was that impossible under the circumstances? October 24th, the State Department.
We are intent on figuring out who did this and bringing the perpetrators to justice, but I'm not going to get into the details.
Details are trickling out. A suspect jailed in Tunisia, another killed by Egyptian police, another identified but still free in Benghazi. Meantime, a number of former national security officials, from Republican administrations to be sure, start asking questions about the response to the attack.
You don't just passively allow Americans to remain under attack for 8 hours of time when you have forces within range and do nothing.
One is Bud McFarlane, National Security Advisor to President Reagan.
The Secretary of Defense was in the White House at 5 o'clock within an hour of when the attack started. He could have told him, yes, we have special operations people and F-18 aircraft that could be deployed right away. To have known what he had available, to have known that Americans were under fire, and to have done nothing is dereliction of duty that I have never seen in a president of any party. Outrageous.
That's pretty strong stuff.
Well, Brett, it is strong. I wouldn't say that if there was any ambiguity about the conditions on the ground. But there really wasn't. Americans were being killed. You must respond. That is your duty. You're the commander-in-chief.
There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on here.
October 25th, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta responds to the growing chorus of criticism.
Basic principle is that you don't deploy forces into harm's way without knowing what's going on, without having some real-time information about what's taking place.
Panetta declined our request for an interview. So did National Security Advisor Tom Donilon.
Mr. Donilon with Fox News, would you be willing to answer some questions about Benghazi, please?
Good morning, guys. I want you to get me off the call.
In fact, a special reports investigates interview request for any White House official went unanswered.
We're not Harry Potter. We're all of a sudden with a wand we can appear in Libya suddenly.
So we turn to former Congressman Joe Sestak, a Pennsylvania Democrat who's also a retired three-star admiral. The F-16s and the Special Forces and the Navy destroyers were in the neighborhood for Benghazi.
But the logistics there, in order to have people from the airfield, if they're coming in to transport, move them over there. You have a whole scheme of things to work through. I've read these accounts, and I think people who are there would have done anything to get there, but it does take some planning.
On October 26th, the father of former Navy SEAL Tyrone Woods, who was killed in action at the annex in Benghazi, went on Fox News America Live to respond to reports that the CIA operators requested help during the firefight and were denied.
Those people who made the decision and who knew about the decision and lied about it are murderers of my son.
And then President Obama does an interview with a local Denver reporter.
Were they denied requests for help during the attack?
Well, we are finding out exactly what happened. I guarantee you that everybody in the State Department, our military, CIA, you name it, had #1 priority making sure that people were safe. These are our folks.
I find it astounding. I find it a lack of leadership.
Republican Senator John McCain says the military should have been prepared to respond long ago.
Why in the world, after 2 previous attacks on the embassy, with deteriorating security, even the alarms being sounded by the ambassador, on September 11th, why wouldn't we have our forces on an alert status so that they could respond?
You think the White House is covering something up?
I think they're either grossly incompetent or covering up, and I don't know which is worse.
In the 2008 Democratic primary, candidate Hillary Clinton famously ran her 3 a.m. ad. Its message was simple. Late at night, when the rest of us are safely asleep, it's the president who gets the call when a crisis erupts in the world, and it's the president who must decide what to do. It's impossible to know what would have happened in Libya if we'd done things differently. It seems painfully clear, though, that not enough was done before, during, or after the attack in Benghazi to make us truly feel safe in this dangerous world. That's our program. I'm Brett Baer.
Hi, my name is Linda Bolton and I'm with Naturalcom Canada. We're going to be talking today about the benefits of magnesium and how it will help migraines. We actually discovered the benefits of magnesium in regards to migraines through my younger sister, Debbie, who had actually suffered with severe migraine headaches since she was 12 years old. And she had pretty much tried everything known to man to help herself, and nothing did. I was just awful to watch how horribly she suffered for so many years. She finally came across Naturalcom around 4 years ago and started taking it. She would take 1 teaspoon in the morning, 1 teaspoon at night, and within a month of taking it, she actually went from 3 to 4 migraines a week to 1 once a month. And I could not believe how much it helped her. And it was around that time that, that we started really investigating the benefits of magnesium for so many different things. I was actually suffering with insomnia and also fibromyalgia at the time, and it really helped me as well. Naturalcom is a highly absorbable form of magnesium citrate, and its absorbability is just tremendous, the way it really works quickly. So how does magnesium help migraines? Well, they say that over 50% of migraine sufferers are actually suffering with magnesium deficiency. One of the things that magnesium does is it actually helps muscles to relax. A lot of migraine sufferers really have a lot of tension in their neck and their muscles and their shoulders. So magnesium will help muscles to relax, and it will also help to reabsorb the calcium that builds up. Calcium's function in the body is to tense muscles, and magnesium relaxes muscles. So magnesium will actually help migraine sufferers with a lot of that muscle tension. The other thing that magnesium does is it helps to dilate the blood vessels leading to the brain. And that too will also help to increase your blood supply and your oxygen supply, reduce spasms in the arteries leading to the brain, and it will help to reduce that pain as well. In fact, the years that I worked as a nurse, I remember that doctors will give migraine sufferers magnesium intravenously when they first come into hospital with migraine headaches. And it actually helps even better than giving them pain relief. So it's really quite an incredible mineral. We are really been very, very excited about the number of people that have been helped with magnesium for their migraines. We actually talked to a lady by the name of Kim from the Owen Sound area who had suffered with severe migraines since she was 18, and she's now 43. She was getting an average of about 1 migraine a week, and she started taking Natural Calm, very reluctantly, I must admit, but she started taking it, and within just within a week of taking it, she never experienced a migraine since. And we're so excited about that. It just blesses my heart when I hear of people who are really helped by Natural Calm and by magnesium for migraines. The other lady that we talked to was a person in Windsor, Ontario, who had been suffering from migraines for many, many years, and she has not experienced 1 migraine since starting to take our product, and she's been on it over 3 months. So it's really wonderful. We also had another gentleman by the name of Alex who had suffered with migraines. Well, he said he was 65 years old, and he'd been having migraines, or what he would call headaches, from the time, he said, I can't remember a week in my life without a headache. And he called me after taking our product for 2 months, actually, I'm sorry, for 2 weeks, and he said, I have not had a headache in a whole week. He said, do you know what that means to me? So it's so exciting to see what magnesium can do to help with migraine.
Hi, this is Dr. Hyman. Welcome back. Now, here's some headline news that you've not heard about. There was a new compound just discovered that turns off all the diabetes genes. Guess what it is? It's rye bread and rye pasta. Now, you might remember from one of my recent blogs that rye has special phytonutrients that turn off all the genes responsible for diabetes in just a few weeks. Now, this should have been headline news along with all the other discoveries about how to control diabetes that I'm going to tell you about today. Last week, I talked to you about how to find out if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, because half the people with diabetes walking around don't know they have it, and nearly all of the people with pre-diabetes certainly don't know they have it. So let's get started. First thing is diet. You know, eating in a way that balances your blood sugar, that reduces inflammation and oxidative stress, and improves your liver detox is the key to preventing, reversing, and stopping insulin resistance in diabetes. This is a way of eating based on a whole foods diet. It's high in fiber, low in sugars and flours, it's got a low glycemic load, and it's rich in colorful fruits and vegetables. It's very simple, whole foods diet. It's a way of eating that includes lots of anti-inflammatory and antioxidant and detoxifying foods. It includes plenty of omega-3 fats and olive oil and soy products and beans and nuts and seeds. All these foods have been proven to prevent and reverse diabetes and insulin resistance. So here's the basic guidelines for those who own a body. I think most of you out there. There's a way of eating that turns on all the right gene messages, that promotes a healthy metabolism, and prevents aging and age-related diseases like diabetes and heart disease. And this is right from my book, Ultra Metabolism. So here's the prescription. 1, first think about your meal timing. You've got to eat some type of protein for breakfast every day. It could be whole omega-3 eggs, a protein shake, nut butters, some form of protein. You've got to eat something every 4 hours to keep your blood sugar balanced. You've got to have small protein snacks in the morning and afternoon, such as a handful of almonds. And you have to finish eating 2 or 3 hours before bed, otherwise you're going to look like a sumo wrestler. And then you have to look at the composition of each meal, sort of like painting a painting. You have to have all the right balance in there of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and make sure you balance your sugar. Now, here's some basic principles. 1, choose organic produce. 2, eat omega-3 fat-containing foods. 3, make sure you have quality protein. 4, eat the omega-3 eggs. Next, eat a meal high in low glycemic beans, such as lentils, chickpeas, and soybeans. These help your blood sugar go up slowly and raise the good cholesterol and lower the bad cholesterol. Eat a whole cornucopia of fruits and vegetables with lots of phytonutrients, all the colors of the rainbow. Eat the rainbow, right? Use low-burning, low-glycemic vegetables such as asparagus, broccoli, kale, spinach, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. Eat lots of great fruits like berries, cherries, peaches, plums, rhubarb, and pears, and apples, which are wonderful for your body and antioxidants. Focus on anti-inflammatory foods. that have things like wild fish with full of omega-3 fats, and red and purple berries and dark green leafy vegetables. And eat more antioxidant-rich foods. These are like orange vegetables and yellow and dark green leafy vegetables and red and purple and all those nice colors that we were talking about. Make sure you eat detoxifying foods to help your liver, like broccoli, kale, and collards, and dandelion greens, and Chinese broccoli, and green tea, and watercress, and dandelion greens, and cilantro, and artichokes, and garlic, and pomegranate, and even cocoa. So many foods out there can help you. And try some herbs like rosemary and ginger and turmeric that are powerful antioxidants. And avoid excessive quantities of meat. And if you have to eat meat, make sure they're organic or grass-fed. Eat lots of garlic and onions because they help lower your blood pressure and cholesterol and help you detoxify. Eat lots of fiber-containing foods, which are whole foods, basically plant foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, whole grains. Eat a good quantity of extra virgin olive oil and use soy products in your diet, and eat more nuts and seeds. And yes, you can even eat chocolate, the darkest, only most luxurious kind, and only a few ounces at a time. It should be at least 70% cocoa. And of course, you should get off all the bad stuff, right? Those are all the good things. You get off processed food and white flour and high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners and starchy processed carbs and fruit juices and canned vegetables and hydrogenated oils and processed oils and lots of red meat and big fish like tuna and swordfish, which have mercury, and try to get rid of as much dairy as you can and limit caffeine and alcohol. And make sure you exercise, because that's dramatically important for improving insulin sensitivity. And learn how to deal with stress, which is actually critical for helping balance your blood sugar and improving your metabolism. Also, I encourage you to think about supplementations, a good multivitamin, and also some special nutrients that I include in my blog in detail, like lipoic acid and biotin and cinnamon and fenugreek and banaba leaf and something called PGX, which is a phenomenal compound. It's glucomannan fiber that slows your blood sugar absorption and helps you actually lower your blood sugar and lower your cholesterol. So these are all very simple things you can do to have profound effects on your diabetes, reverse insulin resistance, help your body actually recover from this horrible event that has happened as a result of the choices you make every day. So diabetes, remember, diabetes and its precursor, insulin resistance, are the most looming threat to our health in the 21st century. It's a tragic consequence of our toxic food environment, our unmitigated exposure to stress, our sedentary lifestyle. However, these problems are completely preventable and often reversible through aggressive lifestyle changes, supplements, exercise, and stress management. Diabetes is the biggest health epidemic we have, triggered by the obesity epidemic. And all of our medical efforts to treat it are focused on medications and insulin, and it's simply the wrong approach. So if you follow these guidelines, you will see a dramatic change very quickly in your health, in your weight, and your diabetes. Just try it.
You lie to the American people about the chemical attacks in Syria. The American people know that it was our government that is most likely responsible. There is strong evidence, including video, that these attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda. And you advocate starting a war, even maybe world war. President Barack Hussein Obama has been supporting terrorism. The United States has been funding and aiding its organizations, including the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda, for many years now. The same enemy we're supposed to be defeating on the battlefield. At least one country in this world stood up against this government terrorism that you guys support in Egypt. The people of Egypt throughout Mohammed Morsi, which Obama supported as well, as countless Christians have lost their lives under evil people such as this. You swore an oath to protect us and protect from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. The simple irony is the domestic enemy now in this country is the people and government of the United States. And McCain and you and the rest of our leaders are accountable for their actions. Because if I was in a position of power or authority, I would have you all arrested and tried for treason against my country under the grounds of 18 U.S.C. 2381 treason U.S. Code. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason. That is the code. The American people are sick of it. This country rose up against you recently The ratio, hang on, I have a right of free speech, I can finish.